prove it, I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes.
Here we go live, ladies and gentlemen, Apex Racing TV, and it's the final round of the Sim Racers Asia GT4 Championship. My name is Marco Barbadera. Scott Newton is behind the cameras, and I am so happy to be finally reunited once again in the commentary box with Wei Yanchan, who is coming in just a second, as we are in the final few seconds of qualifying here in Brazil for this final round of the season. Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira seems to be getting ready to start the race from pole position. He's got a very small margin over Khalid Spoon and Ahmad Nurazam, as Kevin Wang will complete the second row as things stand right now. And also we have Eric Wong provisionally in 5th place, with the drivers completing their final laps as you can see here, the beautiful day here in Brazil, as I'd say a perfect place to end this season up. Lovely weather, and clock is ticking towards the start of the race. Cannot wait for Wei-An, so we can ask him a lot of things, including how did this season fare in his opinion. It's been certainly interesting. Switch to GT4. That of course it's a car that we have just got on the racing service. Certainly a car that divides opinion. Some people love it, some people hate it. The participation numbers are still great, which I think it's a good sign, and makes me think that the drivers of Sim Racers Asia have really embraced this particular car. Just waiting for the session to switch over, which will happen in around 35 seconds, and then we will be ready to guide you through the starting grid for today's race. Drivers taking... Oh, I hear a voice in the background. Could it be Wei-An? Or... It's not Wei-An, but we'll hear from him very soon, as we see car 26 right now using this extra bit of time to get some practice laps in. Of course, always nice to get that extra bit of a track time before we start a race. And here we go. Starting grid should be on your screen in just a second. So pole position, as I was saying earlier, for Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira, Calix Poon in second, and Ahmad Nurazam in third. Kevin Wang and Eric Wong fourth and fifth. Sixth position for Jaisen Jolly. Then we've got Ryan Lam, Juan Zili, Zhang Tiantian in ninth, and rounding up your top 10 will be Ferjan Pratama. Then Juan Simon Sanchez in 11th, Wayne Long in 12th, Federico Teixeira in 13th. Out, Aran Meet is in 14th, and Kelvinder Singh in 15th, Aguri Young in 16th, Casidis Tumkardan in 17th place. The boss Mark Lang sits in 18th place. My co-commentator has also had a little bit of track time, as you can see, but he will be with me, I promise you. Therefore, starting behind Mark Lang will be Jason Benz, Jamal Khandour, and Mohamed Mouamin, I think, in 22nd place. A rolling start, as per usual, as per tradition. A good opportunity to get some heat into these tires. I think now we have Wei-An in the box with us.
Oh, thank you so much for carrying the start of the broadcast. I'm so happy to be back in the booth with you again, Marco and Scott. And look, I'm just looking forward to the season finale. We've had such an exciting season for the past 2 months or so. And of course, we've come to the crunch time where it's going to kind of decide, or rather, it's going to kind of decide who will come towards the top few of the championship finishing positions.
You can see the grid forming up, as per usual, as in tradition for this fantastic championship. The very colored livery. Here we go. Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira leads the way with 310 points. So I can say that we can already call him the champion-elect. Of course, looking forward to strengthen his position even more as we end the season, but scrap there for second, third in the championship is very close, with Wong having a little bit of an advantage over Ahmad Nurazam. Ryan Lam just behind Ahmad Nurazam, and also Simon Sanchez there or thereabouts. So everything to fight for in the top 5, especially as we are finally rolling here in beautiful Interlagos for the final race of the season. As per tradition, 45 minutes as we've had all season, so a bit longer than the official series. And the drivers therefore will have to use their tires with with their heads. Wayan, how so are you ready for this? I mean, final one of the season. I'd say, all in all, considering all the drama surrounding this car in iRacing, a pretty successful one of a season.
Yeah, look, I had the opportunity to turn a couple of laps, and it is surprisingly fun to drive, especially at slower speeds. But when you push a car to limit, that's where the true colors of this car will kind of show itself.
Pace car about to take the hard left and enter the pit lane, and we should be ready to go racing for the final time in this 2020 season 1 here in Interlagos Sim Racers Asia. You can see pace car gets magnetically pulled to the left side of the road, and here we go. It's a very, very, very chaotic start with almost a 4 wide. Drivers need to be extra careful as they enter into turn 1. Oh, and there's some contact already, and the number 4 gets sent into the wall. That is Calix Spoon. Unfortunately, that was never going to work, Wayan, because they entered almost 5 wide into the first corner, and that's usually a recipe for disaster.
Oh yeah, certainly was. A lot of cars, in fact, already positions reshuffling. Of course, Oliveira hasn't been affected by this incident, so is Eric Wong and Kevin Hua. But much more incidents along the background would appear that Alessandro Daledone has also been impacted in that incident there, and also another car spinning around. So we've got quite a lot of drivers, I think, who have been affected by that. They're all being relegated to the second half positions of the grid at this point, whilst the positions reshuffle themselves.
So Oliveira leads the way, 1.6 in front of Wong, then Wang, Sanchez and Teixeira, your top 5. You can see some drivers certainly have been affected by that crash, by several crashes, I would say, because I see Mohamed Moamin, for example, Jean Gilly, Autaran Mid, Jason Benz. Let's see, I think Calix Spoon has been able to continue, even though that car certainly has to have some damage after being unceremoniously pushed wide there in what was effectively a 5 wide start to begin the race. And of course the track there narrows quite a bit after being decently wide, and everyone tries to hug that inside wall as close as possible, even if you are on the opposite side of the track. And that's where drama tends to happen, as the first lap is already in the books for our race leaders.
Certainly, with a track like this, especially at Interlagos, you do have two extremities. You have a high-speed section. You've also got high downforce sections towards the second sector. Of course, we are riding on board wide in, and of course, it's gone a little bit wide, which is going to leave Tiantian with a little bit of an advantage as he tries to find a slipstream as they make their way through this corner. Now, of course, at a place like this, you do have to brake a little earlier because you do have less downforce owing to the specific location of where this circuit is. A little bit of flashing lights from the driver behind Zhang. Of course, this is good competition as they brew towards the second sector of the circuit. Zhang, or rather Lam, makes the move up for P7.
Yes, unfortunately, the Hatsune Miku car losing a position there. As you know, massive fan of that particular style of livery. So Teixeira, Long, Lam, Zhang, this is your fight for 5th place. A little bit far back we have Sings and Tumkurnarnon in 10th place. Kelvinder Singh from the beautiful country of Malaysia with a very colorful livery on his car. Trying to recognize that sort of makeshift iRacing flag on his car, as he's trying to catch up to the Hatsune Miku car right in front of him, and using a lot of that slipstream as they enter the arquibancadas, and almost hitting 240 as they brake hard for the Senna S here. And back into the Curva do Sol, and into one of my favorite named places on a racetrack, the Retajo Posta. My terrible Portuguese.
Alright, this is probably going to be a move by Singh for the move up to P8. Of course, this is also one of the more contentious battling positions around the grid. So Singh goes along the outside. Of course, that does not kind of exactly offer him the line advantage, but he is setting himself up for this very corner where it is going to be an inside line for him. This is going to be him taking P8 from Zhang Tiantian.
Beautiful move into 7, and they will come into 8. This basically opens the technical portion of the racetrack, as you can see, as they enter now basically two. I always in my mind think of them as twin corners, but in reality they are very different from each other. But the track goes up, goes down, and then goes up again, then goes down again, as they are doing right now at the Jun Song corner, which basically is the link between one of the links between the new track and the old track. Of course, Interlagos used to be much bigger and more dangerous, even though it's certainly a track where, especially here, this particular section of the track here, now in real life, I think they have a safer barrier there on the right, but one of the scariest places to crash. And you can ask, of course, Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso, among others, if they are grateful to have some extra protection now, because a few years ago they had a massive wreck there in the race won by my fellow countryman, not only also, sharing the same hometown as me, Giancarlo Fisichella.
The driver in the camera is probably also your friend, Alessandro Dall'Idone. He's having a good time, although he is at P15, 7 positions from where he began from earlier on in this race. He is leading Aguri Yong and Mark Lang, who takes 16th and 17th. A little bit of slipstream as they come along this straight, taking this left-hander towards Destina Jolago. Of course, this is also one of the more prime overtaking spots.
So maybe it was Alessandro who went 3-4 wide there in the start of the race. I'm used to seeing in a more of a magenta livery. This is more like a, don't know if you have Milka chocolate there, but this looks like a almost like a Milka chocolate car. In the meantime, Singh has probably made a mistake, because all of a sudden he has dropped all the way into 14th position, and Dall'Idone will probably try and pass him, and that is exactly what happens. So Dall'Idone up to 14th, as we have a massive damage for Jaisrin Jali.
This is going to impact his race performance so much. He is stuck at P13 at the moment. I think he did have quite a huge off, which led to him, having such damage.
He's losing. Let's see what happened to Singh there, as he was fighting side by side with the 999 car. And a bit of netcode here. Then they also involved the Hatsune Miku car there, one of the two Hatsune Miku cars, to be precise. And I also want to see what happened to Jaisri, because that car was losing pieces as it was going along after the crash, and he has a flapping rear hood as we speak. Let's see. As they were entering, he was entering the final portion of the lap, beautifully colored car, and I guess he might have hit the wall on the right side here after clipping the grass. No, he didn't clip the grass, he just went on a big tank slapper. And look at the car now, losing bits and pieces. I'm sorry for Jaisrin, but I love to see this, like the car like spewing out debris as they try to restart.
Yeah, Jolly wanted a little bit of the bubbly as he shakes his car over. Of course, pieces flying off. This is Tum Kunanon in 7th, and wow, we've got 2 of the same livery cars, the 2 Hatsune Miku cars with each other. Of course, one is Thai and one is of the Chinese driver of Zhang, who is in 8th. This is the battle for P7. Of course, this could also well become a 4-5-way battle pack that might extend to a couple of drivers behind them. This is led by Tum Kunanon at this point in P7. She's in P7. Of course, she is 7 seconds behind the 6th place driver of Teixeira, which means that she will have quite a gap to close up. She is holding up the pressure quite well at this point.
Yeah, fantastic fight between these two cars, as you can see. Both sporting the same livery with the Super GT banners there. Waiting in the wings is, of course, Ferjan Pratama, and recovering Calix Poon, who's now up to 10th after being involved in that mess at the start of the race. Just a quick look there by Poon on the inside. Will he be able to make it work? Well, the answer, according to the timing tower, is no, because Ferjan Pratama is still there in front of him. And also jumping on board with the number 4. Oh, this is a big dive, Weian. Massive dive. It might actually work this time. Let's see. No, it doesn't. That's some
that was just
great defending. And still some very, very creative lines from Calix Weian, but, Ferjan Pratama, tough cookie to pass today.
Yeah, Pratama putting up a good show for all of us to enjoy. He is holding up very well, and they come upon this section. Now, this is slipstream zone, so it could well mean that Poon might be able to take a little bit of a slipstream advantage to kind of think of a move as they come upon this section. So, defensive line does Pratama. He goes a little bit closer towards the inside. Earlier entry compared to usual, and yes, he still defends the inside line, which leaves Calix to go along the outside. Of course, they are coming towards the center S's. But while Poon cleans off the move, but he does still have Pratama alongside him. A little bit of contact as they came through the center S's, but it is Poon who's made the move up to P9. Of course, this is Fred Ting, the Bruneian driver, alongside Pratama, and also a driver behind there, Leong, who's gone a little bit wide.
Speaking of Brunei, I've always find it absolutely interesting that in your soccer league in Singapore, you have a team from Japan and a team from Brunei participating in the S League in Singapore. So of course, strong ties between the countries. I know that this particular team from Brunei were a bit naughty in their own nation, and so they basically are in exile, so to speak. So they basically relocated to your league.
Wow, I never knew, man. Unfortunately, I don't really follow the S League, but well, that's really insightful. Really, really good to know, man.
I mean,
well, we're all friends with Brunei. Very good friends with them. Good friends with Japan as well.
It's a bit worrying for me that I know this stuff and you don't, Leonardo de Oliveira, here the leader, 2 seconds. You can see the gap slowly but steadily increasing over Wang in second place, as the same gap, almost identical, between Wang and Wang in third place. Then, of course, there's a closer battle there between Sanchez, for example, I can see, and Lam. These two are fighting over fourth place, as you can see. 0.8 of a second between Sanchez and Lam. Then there is a bit in the middle of nowhere, Teixeira in sixth place, and then we have this massive battle pack with Tum Kunarnon, Zhang Poon, Pratama, and Leon Ting, and all the others. Calix Poon on the inside there of Zhang Tiantian, and that again needs to take some creative lines. Is the number 4. Now on the outside here. And can he keep it on the track? I think he can. And it's very, very brave to do something like this with this car, especially with this tire model that really doesn't like the car slipping and sliding too much. But, Calix Poon makes it work and up into 8th.
A brilliant show by Calix. Of course, he is currently 6 positions down from where he began from. He was tangled in incidents earlier on in the race, but he finds himself now sandwiched between 2 Hatsune Miku cars, and this, I think, is going to perhaps be a little bit stressful for him as he's coming under a bit of pressure. At the same time, he is also pressuring Tum Kunanon. Because Tum Kunanon, she still holds on to 7th, has been so for quite a long part of the race. Of course, she has climbed 12 positions from where she began from. As we ride on Bob Hoon, this is where we see if he goes for a move. He takes a move down the inside. This is going to be him inside alongside to Kurano. He makes the move, cleans it off, and makes it work through turn 1 and secures 7th position just like that.
Fantastic stuff from Alex Spoon. So safe to say that that car seems to be in good shape after the initial contact that we had at the very beginning of the race. And now, of course, for Calix, next in line would be Federico Teixeira. He's not very close right now, around 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds. But of course, if this was the official iRacing series, well, you will notice two things. The races would be shorter, 30 minutes, and there would be TCRs running around, mostly Mina TCR. But here we don't have TCRs, and we have 45 minutes, so there's plenty of time for him to recover.
Yep, absolutely right. And this is Daledone is trying to go for a move for P13th behind Singh. So of course we do know that Daledone is a really nice driver. He's a really quick driver. He had just won the majors Indy 500, in fact, that took place, I believe, earlier this week or sometime in the last week. And yeah, here he is today, racing with us in Sim Races Asia.
Yeah, as you can see, trying to close the gap on Singh. Well, he's as one gets a fastest lap of the race, by the way, out of nowhere in 3rd place. Alessandro, of course, basically the poor man's Alexander Albon. Well, no, I'm sorry, Alexander Albon at least is half Thai. He's not even. I mean, he's claiming his Thai racing license because part of his family resides in Thailand right now. But to be fair to the lovely people of Thailand, Alessandro Daredonne is not from Thailand, but he happily represents and proudly represents the country. And as you can see, trying to make the pass. And maybe he does it. Oh, that's very close between the pair of them.
We have a good view of this as they make their way through Ferradura. Of course, Singh has pulled a little bit of a gap ahead of Daledone already, but of course they come to this section of the circuit, the second sector, where it's all about the concertina effect. It's all about getting the shortest line through these corners. It's just a series of left, right, left, right. It's a little bit of mistake by Singh, and this is going to hand 13th up to Daledone, and he cleans that off. He takes advantage of that incident and moves up to this position.
I mean, as you were saying, the moment you said about what you said that you're trying to make spend the least time possible, using the quickest route possible to those corners. I saw basically Daledonne put almost half of his car in the grass to almost cut the hairpin there, and that proved to be important because he was able to close the gap, just what was needed to then profit from the mistake there, as Pratama gets past Leon Gear for 10th place. Another driver on the comeback trail right now. And he moves into the top 10, but I don't think the driver from Macau will let it slide that easily.
Pratama defending the inside line, which will hand him a little bit of a position advantage, and he still sits ahead of Leon as they come through the Cidade do Lago. So of course, quite a lot of work will have to go behind defending a position at this sector. Of course, you can use the coming corners to your advantage as long as you keep your line compact through these series of right-handers. Don't open up a door, because Pratama keeping that door tight to prevent Leon from making a position work.
Lovely that every time they come through this section, there is every driver has got their interpretation of the racing line. As we take a quick peek at the weather, it's getting close to 9 a.m. of course in the southern hemisphere, therefore the 15th of November around all the iRacing southern hemisphere racetracks. 34 degrees on the track, so I would say one of the more manageable temperature for this GT4 new tire model. truckload of humidity. I'm surprised we don't have more of a misty conditions, because usually that's when you start seeing a little bit of mist in iRacing when you get close to the 100% mark in humidity, and that usually makes for a terrible broadcasting experience. Thankfully, we are not there today.
Yeah, certainly we are in fact in the comfort of our own homes, wherever we may be, at various places in the world. Of course, this does kind of express sim racing's ability to deliver competition even in virtual form. You do still feel all the excitement and emotions that you get, almost similar to a real race event. This is Daledonia going for a move alongside Fred Ting, and this is going to be a move for P12. Daledonia makes that work. He tries to perhaps clean that off, but Ting doesn't want to give up just yet. He's trying to find a door on either side of Daledonia, and here they come towards Sector 2.
Nice from the number 3 car there, as he jumps into P12, and he's not that far away from Long there, and of course Pratama, who is this was a battle we were following just up a few minutes ago as they enter the middle portion of the racetrack. In the meantime, there at the front, Oliveira 40.1, Wang 40.8, 40.5 for Wang in third place there. Therefore, he's slowly trying to close the gap on second place, but so far that's easier said than done, because the lap times are so similar. I think Wang is still in a good position, as you can see right now. The gap ebbing and flowing. It grew a bit bigger in the opening. In the last 2 or 3 laps, then started to decrease in the last couple of them. So we'll have to keep an eye, of course, Wang having that. I think it's still the fastest lap of the race. Let me check very, very quickly, and I think it is not anymore. Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira. No, sorry, still 39.98, still the fastest lap of the race from Kevin Wang. Thank you, Scott. As you can see on the screen right now, that big purple lap that Kevin was able to pull out of his car. Absolutely fantastic. If he can get more of these, and this is a car that, as with most of these new tire model cars, Weian, gets better as the run progresses. So if Kevin can get a bit more of these, we might actually have a fight for second place in the not too distant future.
Yeah, but of course, as it stands now, the gap between Wang and Huang sit at just under 3 seconds. So these two drivers are kind of well set up to perhaps battle themselves out. We do have only 20 minutes of racing to go, so quite a bit of work has to go for this to work. But of course, Huang has quite a huge advantage ahead of everyone else. Ryan Lam in fourth, he is just under 10 seconds behind Huang, so this is going to be a good margin for him.
As we move to the rear end of the field, out Aranmit, La Fantasy Sports Racing Team Thailand, that barely fits his name into the, as I spilled coffee. Oh dear. Okay, so
that was such an unfortunate incident.
Yeah, many things happened, including me spilling my coffee all over myself.
Oh
and
no!
And then because there was a sudden burst of wind, which smashed my door closed, sent the glass, the plastic glass of coffee flying onto me and my system, and then this contact here that unfortunately slowed down Aranmit and the driver in front of him, which I think I'm trying to see his number there, the 26, of course, of Mohammed Mohamin. So, the marshals will have to do some cleanup, and also I have to do some cleanup. But, I'm a professional. I will commentate and clean everything up without stopping.
Awesome. Yeah, look, hope it's not too messy for you over there, Marco. Yeah, look, there was an unfortunate incident. Of course, specific to this race, we don't in fact have live steering just for today. Probably because one of the stewards has come to the comms booth and the other one has gone out racing. And it is also a festive season at this point for some of our friends in Malaysia as well as here in Singapore and Indonesia. And this is Tumkunanon in 9th. She is still set, or rather, she's dropped 2 positions from where we previously caught up with her. She is set behind Zhang Tiantian, who is in 8th, and she's coming under quite a lot of pressure from Pratama in 10th and Leong, who's in 11th. This is Tumkunanon defending the inside line against Pratama, who's going to try to make it work along the outside.
Side by side heading into the first corner as I see the ominous presence of Dalle Donne there in the background, and a mistake from Pratama, and he's bound to lose 2, maybe 3 positions. Lots of drivers go past now. I think that Dalle Donne just went past side by side once again there between Dalle Donne and Leong for 10th place there as they are side by side onto the backstretch. Number 3 and the 999, very tight line, hugging that curb. As you can see, this car bouncing massively, and the Redonne goes up to 10 now. Everything, I don't know if I to be happy or sad, because everything smells like coffee now here. Like,
Oh no.
You know, last year around this time of the year, I did something even worse. I spilled coffee all over my wheel. Therefore, for the next 2 months, every time I, turned on the computer and started driving the wheel and the fan went on in the wheel, coffee smell would come out of the wheel itself. So, again, I don't know if I need to be happy or upset, as Dalle Donne goes up into 9th position now. So, probably at fault for the mess at the start. I don't know, I just caught it with the... they were 5 wide, but certainly the first contact, I think, was his fault. Or certainly it was the spark that started the big fire there, as into the pits goes, I think that was Mohammed Mohaimin. He goes in. But certainly on the comeback trail, as we see Teixeira under pressure from a very, very, very committed Calix Pono. He thought for a second to move on the inside. Teixeira said, no, you cannot go to here. But I think Poon is in a very, very committed, aggressive driving mode. He's making tons of overtakes. He wants to get back there, at least to a top 5. And he is looking in this beautiful Mobile 1 green and blue livery. Absolutely lovely looking car. He is looking like he can complete the pass very, very soon.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly want to be in Teixeira's position right now, because Poon looks like he can pounce at any given moment. This is the section where drivers like to pounce, but of course Teixeira leads Poon out of this sector and onto the mid-speed and leading up to the start-finish line, this part of the circuit. So, of course, treading the line very carefully here. A little bit wide goes Teixeira, which is probably going to hurt his pace just a little bit, but he still manages to hold off, and he still carries on momentum as he leads Poon through this stretch.
The speedometer comes up for the number 4 of Calix Poon as we enter once again the Senna S. Gap is getting closer, but so far Teixeira has been defending brilliantly. Let's see how we will cover this time on the Reta Oposta, as they try to use all of the racetrack without getting into that nasty green stuff that will give you an off-track, of course. Poon from miles behind, fancies his challenge. This makes... look at that. Teixeira got a little bit scared, probably because Poon from 3 miles behind, made his intentions pretty clear. Now they are side by side. Brilliant, smart of driving from Calix Poon, as again, side by side between the pair of them. This is a fantastic fight, Wei-Yan.
This sure is great showmanship by these 2 drivers. This is the battle for P6, so it is a contentious battle. We have 16 minutes of racing to go at this point, so we've come to the 2-quarter mark, or rather half an hour mark. At this point, we've got a quarter of racing left, And I think it's just being some great bar the incident. I think it's just been some great battling great racing action that's been taking place all throughout the race. Oh, this is probably going to be moved down the inside for Poon. Here we go indeed. Poon along the inside. This is going to be a drag race down the back stretches. He makes this work, and it's now his turn to offer slipstream to Teixeira. He takes the inside line. Of course, here in Interlagos, this is the older Interlagos. The pit entrance hasn't exactly been updated to a modern one. But this is Poon leading Teixeira down into turn 1. Would Teixeira think of a move down the S's? Nah, I think he thinks better of it, and he's probably going to have to wait for next few corners for an opportunity. Another battle going on at this point. This is to Konanon again. She is in 10th at this point with Pratama behind her. This is a four-way battle pack led by Leong, and this is going to shake up.
I mean, all these drivers have basically been battling against themselves since lap 1, and some of the names have changed, but most of them have remained the same, and still we struggle to find a clear front runner in this pack. Going back to what happened between Poon and Teixeira there, that overtake, I'd say that there's a very famous baseball quote by one of the greatest pitchers of all time, as we see a big dive there from Pratama on the inside there. Can he make it stick? The answer is no. And the quote was, "Pitching is the art of instilling fear." And I think also overtaking is the art of instilling fear. As you can see, sometimes you can make the pass just by, scaring your opponent into thinking you're about to make a big pass. As this fight continues, there has been another fastest lap of the race up front. It has been set by Eric Wong, as you can see in your camera shot right now. Oh, big wreck, I think. I see some drama. So Teixeira and Long, I think, were involved in this. At least the two of them. Maybe more.
This is a replay of the incident that might have occurred between Teixeira and this.
Oh no,
so it is
unlucky.
Yeah, so it was a matter of going along the exit of that corner. Of course, because of the fall off, kind of a cliff, in fact, of that exit. It does unsettle your car. In fact, it did kind of flip his car over and all that, man, as you can see in the following pictures.
This grass, Weian, is like ice with the new tire model. So once Federico went there, he tried to save the car, but it was certainly in a very, very tough position. In the meantime, Kevin Wang dropped massively from Wong there.
Yeah, so it would appear that Huang has, in fact, his advantage ahead of Lam has fallen to just under 4 seconds. So I think, it is time. He has possibly kind of lost a little bit of pace. But of course, this means that Eric and Oliveira are in front, possibly going to fight it out.
I think he had an issue on lap 18. He had a 10-second excursion in the daisies or in the mushrooms. Here comes the replay. Thank you, Scott. Woo! Here we go. Yeah, these are clearly mushrooms, as you can see. And you have to be careful, because if you rejoin too far ahead on the track, you might even be tagged with a cutting the course penalty. Hopefully this is not the case for Kevin. But certainly a big mistake, and pouncing at the right moment was Eric Wong, getting the fastest lap of the race. 39.88, just when he needed it the most. So, to add insult to injury, Kevin Wang made a mistake, and at the same time Wong with the fastest lap of the race. So really perfect time to make that purple lap, as Jali, Tum Cardanon, Zhang, Ting, they are having a massive scrap there.
Does seem to shape up to be, well, it is a 3x3-way battle pack. If you combine this could well become a 6-way battle pack. This is a battle for 8th position, and it is involving Singh Pratama and Jali. Of course, Jali in the purple car. I think he's managed to get his car repaired. We do have fast repairs, and this is what appears to be Zhang making the move along the inside of Tum Kunano, but these two drivers are now switching positions here and there. A little bit of mistake, not exactly a mistake, but probably a missing of a line there. But of course, these three drivers are still holding it together. It's still Tum Kunanon leading this three-way pack. She is in front of Zhang, and they come upon the final corner. Of course, very key for them to keep their line tight. As we just said that, this is Tum Kunanon who's gone a little bit wide, but does manage to kind of maintain a little bit of the pace to keep herself afloat.
I think we are about to get a bit of two wide, maybe three wide action as we enter into the first corner, and also almost three wide are these drivers in front of them. As you can see, oh dear, Pratama contact, unfortunate contact there. And also Zhang goes around there, so I think double trouble. Oh, needs to be careful there with the rejoin as, oh look, it's a wild Mark Lang. We haven't heard from him in a while in this race, but he is looking to make a move. Oh look, it's another Itasha car.
Oh yeah, it is.
A Bandai Namco, wow, car. So more video game oriented, but still an Itasha car in my books. Oh, disappeared.
Oh, that's just so. Yep, as Mark just said in the sim, okay, you're back on screen. Yep, I think, this does show that internet plays a very big role in the quality of competition you get here on iRacing. Of course, Mark Lang and Michelle Wee, these are both Singaporeans, of course, two of three Singaporeans, the minority in some ways in the Sim Racers Asia series, and this is a battle for P16 around the mid pack of the grid, and they're just having quite good fun battling with each other.
Oh, absolutely, and of course this championship is really, as you see, Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira in his lap time comparison, sector comparison with Wong in second place. This championship, it's maybe not easy to understand from us in Europe, or some of us, I would say, but Asia is big, and there are people from all over the continent. And the server are based in Australia, so of course it was always a tough thing to race with people from all over the continent on a server that's in Australia. But of course, as you know, lately the internet has been put under I think unprecedented stress, and we've seen some more exaggerated lag issues. I mean, last week's official Indy 500 comes to mind, as there were plenty of big wrecks caused by what was can only be described as the internet not playing nicely. But all in all, I'd say that I was feeling the worst for iRacing when all of this began, and it looks like it held up quite nicely for the time being. And even tonight, we have had a couple of instances where maybe the lag played a part, but all in all, it was a very, very, very clean race. Though some incidents are part of the competition, and apart from that little bit of a Itasha car. Oh man, where were these cars all race long? I mean, apart from sitting a bit back in the field, but
Yep, surprise, surprise! I think there are probably more surprises to come. As we move the cameras through each car, I think we might be able to discover a couple more Itasha cars here. Look, I think it's just because, Marco, you're present in this race, and suddenly many cars become Itasha cars.
Here we go, Guri Young then trying to get a move on Teixeira there for 12th place. Of course, Teixeira's car, the complete opposite, very, very, monochromatic livery, as Ting, the driver from Brunei, enters the pit lane. We haven't talked about fuel mileage, of course, which has come into play in the past few races, Wei-An. What do you think about today's race. Will the drivers be able to make it until the end? This is not a very high fuel consumption track, I think, but what do I know about this? Nothing. So, do you think it will come into play?
I think it should be quite good. I mean, given that for past few races, there might have been a couple of races where on those high fuel burn circuits where drivers did actually have to make either pit stops or go for a couple of slower laps to conserve fuel. I think given this is Interlagos, I don't think the pressure is on them to kind of have to conserve fuel. I think the driver should be good for the rest of the race. We are in fact with around 6 minutes to go. So if any kind of oopsies might happen with due to the probably fuel miscalculations, the oopsies would happen in the next few moments.
Only 5 minutes left until the clock reaches 45, as we are side by side between Singh and Jolly. This is the fight for 8th place. Singh has been in a lot of battles today. Also here, Teixeira being overtaken by Young for 12th place. So of course we will see in just a few minutes, I should say. Of course, when the clock hits 45, depending on where the leader is, if we are going to have an extra lap or not, as Teixeira tries to come back at the 00 car there, but no luck this time. I think Poon is about to attack Sanchez. And what a remarkable comeback from Calix Poon, Wei-An.
Certainly, he did start around the mid pack of the race. Of course, he was tangled in the starting incident. Of course, around the race start, the incident did take out quite a few cars. But of course, we do in fact have fast repairs here in this race at least. So some of the drivers do make use of that to kind of recover themselves and make their way back up. This is Poon putting some pressure on Sanchez as they make their way through the Senna SS. This is a battle for P5, which is along the pointy end of the grid. And Sanchez is having a hard time shaking off Poon.
Yeah, look at the gap there. It was 2.3 seconds just 5 laps ago. Now is basically non-existent between the pair of them. Poon again trying to fake the big move there on the inside. Sanchez isn't too fast about that. He knew that there was absolutely no way that was going to happen, so he didn't sacrifice his line, at least this time. But still, I think that Poon probably, if he is able to make the pass, there is no time to go and grab 4th place, but certainly top 5, given the circumstances, given that in the first corner he was sitting in the runoff area, after being spun around and basically having to let almost everyone pass. This is a fantastic result for him. No matter if he gets 5th or 6th, I'm sure he wants to get 5th. By the way, this HMSRT car, one of my favorite non-Itasha liveries, if not my favorite non-Itasha livery of the field. It's absolutely beautiful for what I can suspect is the Hong Kong and Macau sim racing team, judging by the initials.
Yes, in fact it is. And this is going to be a lot of pressure from Calix Poon. He is going to make this move possibly work along the main stretch. This is Poon along the outside, Sanchez along the inside. He cleans that off almost. But of course, this is the Senna SS. This has turned into an inside line for Poon. So is he going to make this work? No, Sanchez holds on to this and he holds on to P5.
Also, coincidentally, Hong Kong and Macau, 2 of my favorite flags in the whole world. And you can see that Macau flag proudly displayed on the top side of that Cayman GT4. So our race leader just started another lap, so I think, well, he's about to finish another lap, I think, to be more precise. So therefore, he will get the white flag this time around. The lap are around 1 minute 40, and so we are perfectly in range to get the white flag here in Interlagos. Sale alla Blanca for Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira and on the Sim Racers Asia GT4 season for that matter.
It is the final lap, and it is Eric Wong who is 3.6 seconds behind Oliveira. Of course, Eric did in fact win the last week's round over at Donington. Of course, that round took place behind closed doors. But of course, in terms of the championship, it is pretty much led by Oliveira. But of course, the second position in the championship is up for grabs, and that is between Eric Wong and also another driver.
And so Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira taking his beautiful MSRT Cayman GT4 through the final portion of this lap. Probably it was already in the books, but he will now be officially Le Champion after the end of the race. And it has been a fantastic season for him. A driver that, no matter the car we have been racing in this championship, has always been at the forefront of the competition. And really no surprise that he has done the same in GT4.
Because over at Sim Racers Asia, SRA rewards consistency, and that is exactly what Leonardo Oliveira has been able to commit to. He sits behind Mark Lang taking use of the slipstream, but he comes upon the final corner. This is going to be your Sim Racers Asia GT4 Series Championship winner. Oliveira comes home. He wins at Interlagos as well as the GT4 Championship, and Eric Wong comes home in second. Stellar performance by these two drivers, and also possibly going to be Kevin Huang, who will make his way around the final corner, the pit entrance, to come home in P3. These three drivers have broken away from the rest of the field. They have remained untouchable for all race long, and this is going to be a battle towards the end. No holds barred battle between Sanchez and Kuhn. Of course, Ryan Lam is up there in fourth, but this is a battle for P5. It is up for grabs, and is Poon going to be able to make the last minute dash to make this work along the outside perhaps of Sanchez? But this is going to be nearly a photo finish, and Sanchez comes along the inside of Poon to take P5, and Poon down in P6.
Very, very close between the pair of them, but you are right. Sanchez gets fifth. Singh will get eighth, just in front of Jali. And I think it will be up to Ferg. Oh, no, Jali enters the pit lane. He still crosses the start-finish line, mind you, so that's good enough. And yeah, it's Ferjan Pratama rounding up your top 10. As you can see, all the other drivers coming home. So Mitchell Wee, I think that's the correct pronunciation, right? If I got that correctly this time.
Yeah, that is correct. Mitchell Wee comes home in 15th, but that is going to be behind Zhang Tiantian, who will come home in 14th. Mark Lang in the Cliffhanger Racing team will come home in 16th. Of course, he's had good battling with Mitchell in 15th, and this is pretty much the rest of the grid.
Oh yes, that's it for today's race, as the drivers, of course, are now in the process of either driving back to the pits, towing back to the pits, or celebrating somewhere around the track. But we are just waiting for the official race results to come. You see Simon Sanchez getting some donuts in the runoff area of the backstretch. Always nice to have a big celebration. And here we go with the final race results. Ian, take us through those results, please.
Certainly, and we have a championship winner. He's been stellar all season long. Of course, again, Sim Racers Asia is all about consistency. And Leonardo Oliveira comes home and wins the race. Eric Wong in second. Kevin Huang comes home in third, because he was quite a distance behind Eric Wong. Ryan Lam in fourth, and Simon Sanchez comes home in fifth. Calix Poon, of course, Poon and Sanchez, both of them were super close to each other. In fact, it was nearly a photo finish. They come home in fifth and sixth. Alessandro Dalidone comes home in seventh, and Calvinder Singh will come home in eighth. Of course, a great show by these drivers as well. Podium Pratama in ninth. Cassidius Tumkunanon in 10th. Federico Teixeira in 11th, Aguri Yong in 12th, Zhang Tiantian will come home in 13th, Mitchell Wee and Mark Lang 14th and 15th, Jaiswin Jali and Fred Ting in 16th and 17th, Leong Wai in 18th, Out Aranmit in 19th, Muhammad Muhaimin in 20th, Leong Kake in 21st. Of course, it would appear that Kake might have disconnected sometime in the earlier on in the race. Norazam comes home in 22nd. Retirees as well. These drivers, Juan Sidlin, and I have no idea why I qualified just now. That's been 24th. Jason Benz and Jamal Gandu. I do believe Jamal might have had some lap set earlier on in the race, but did not make the race start.
And so, waiting for the interviews for tonight. Let's see who is going to be the first one. I think, Weian, you are standing with Calix Poon.
Hello?
Oh yes, in fact. Hi, Calix. Hope you're having a great evening over there in Hong Kong. First of all, congratulations on coming home in P6. I do understand that you did have an exciting battle for some parts of the race with Simon Sanchez. Of course, that was a photo finish towards the end there. So, look, please share with us more about the race from your perspective.
So the race start, I don't know, like into turn one, I got hit by someone behind, and I just kind of, I was facing a wrong way into turn one, I was facing a wrong way into turn one. I was last place, and then fortunately I don't have any damage, or maybe a tiny bit that doesn't really affect performance. And then I just kept going, and then down the road, after center S's, there was a few carnage, basically what I saw. There was 10 cars involved. I don't know, it's just carnage. And then I got a few more places, and then at the end of lap 1, I was P14, which is crazy. And then I just kept doing really crazy overtakes, dive bomb like Daniel Ricciardo, because he's my idol. Just doing those kind of moves into the Cedar de Lago, and sometimes in the center S. And then the last 6 laps or so, I just caught up to Simon there. He defended really well. I just can't get past him. Just ended up with P6. I know the final corner is important, and I actually nailed it quite good, but on the exit kind of have a little bit of oversteer, kind of compromised my speed, so I just can't get Simon on the line. It's just 400ths of a second behind him. So it's very exciting race for me.
Yeah, would appear so from the commentary booth as well. We did find it was such an exciting battle. No, I think having participated in the racing this season, what would some of your thoughts be of how the racing had turned out this season? Understanding that this is probably a new car for everyone. It only came in this season, and of course with a new car, it comes with its own quirks that everyone would have to get used to within a limited amount of time for them to get up to speed. What are your thoughts on that?
This car, it's quite hard to manage the first few laps because of the cold tires. So people just spin, and it's really hard. So you can't just go full throttle 100% basically. And then after that, you can do that. The racing, it's pretty good. It's because these cars are slower, so you can get really close side to side battle. So it's pretty good. That's my thoughts.
Brilliant. Look, before we let you go, we will of course offer the opportunity for you to give a shout out to anyone you'd like to thank. So would there be any sponsors or anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Okay. So I want to shout out my team, Cali of Racing. My sponsors, my own channel. I don't know why, but yeah. Extreme Motorsports, those guys, in America, and yeah, that's about it. I want to thank one more people. Tom, Minot. Thanks for him for making this livery. He's worked pretty hard for this one, and yeah, that's it from me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Calix. Hope you have a
Yep.
great day ahead.
Okay,
So
let's see.
that was. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was Calix Spoon. Of course, he's put up a great show for all of us. We all enjoyed his watching, and we do in fact have Podium Pratama up in the booth. Marco.
Yes, that is quite correct. Welcome to the booth, Ferjan Pratama. And yeah, how are you doing?
Hello guys, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me in the interview this time. Well, I'm pretty great actually after I recovery from accident last week because last week I cannot go into the race. So I think this last race is my redemption to going to top 10. Actually, it's really glad. I'm really glad I really reached the top 10.
Yeah, tell us about your race. How was it? How did you find the car to work on this particular racetrack?
Yeah, actually, I tried to practice like 2 days ago before the race actually began, and I tried to find the character of the car, and it's pretty hard because you need to turn with the rear end sliding, and I think it's 70% on this track is works for me. So yeah, I doing that all the time. And at the first of the race, I think it's a little bit of havoc. I don't know why, but maybe 11 cars involved, and in front of me, like someone just flipped over. Well, that's really scary for me.
And in general, how would you describe your season?
Well, for this season, I think I'm I'm uh, I I'm pretty glad I'm joining in this season because I try to learn something new from these guys racing, so I can I can learn much more things to do.
Well, it's been fantastic to have you on board, Ferjan, and nice that you ended the season on a good place. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Okay. First, I want to thank you to my team, Rotary E Motorsport, for the livery too, and I want to thank you guys and Apex Racing TV and Sim Racers Asia for this event. It's pretty good, and I wish to see you guys in the next one.
Thanks a lot, man. It has been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll catch you very soon.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
And that was, of course, Ferjan Pratama, and those were our interviews. And I think, Wayan, that was our season.
Oh yes, in fact, it had been such a crazy season. It's all been about trying out this new car, this Porsche GT4. We kind of entered this season not exactly knowing what exactly we would expect out of a new car like this, but I think it's for what it's worth. I think we've seen some exciting moments. Just as we have seen quite a lot of even moments that were rather crashes here and there. I think it all comes part of the racing experience. Now, of course, coming up next season, we would Sim Racers Asia would be taking a break of a couple of weeks. After that, we will return with GT3s plus roof track. So that will take place in the next season, and we will also be arranging an invitational race with the sim racing community of India that will take place in time to come. So a lot for us racing drivers to look forward to.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Well, before we go, let me say a massive thanks to all the people who have helped us over the year, over the entire championship. Of course, Dane Bird, and of course, the man behind the cameras, Scott Newton, and all the drivers who have taken part, and of course Sim Racers Asia for putting their faith into us, and as per usual, Sim Racing Association of Singapore and the Macau China Sim Racing Association for their support to the series. And I think it is absolutely required of you, Wei Yan, to close out the broadcast for today.
Well, look, yeah, of course, on behalf of Sim Racers, I would also like to thank everyone who has participated in this season, or even contributed and helped us in one way or another, not just this season, but also for past season. Every participation does matter to us, and we really appreciate everyone being part of this. Special thanks also to Apex Racing TV, yourself, Marco, Scott, and Dane, as well as various other people who've pretty much made this racing experience so exciting, and exactly what it is like today with all the experiences that everyone gets to enjoy because of the work that goes on behind the scenes, especially over here in the broadcast booth, Marco, yourself, and Scott. Look, I think we do have some broadcasts coming up on this channel, especially later on tonight and also for the rest of the weekend.
Absolutely. Well, we have tons of stuff coming up. I think the Radical series is up very, very soon. And of course, the last two rounds of the F3 Formula Driver Championship are coming up today and tomorrow at 5:15 GMT. Yes, 5:15 GMT to crown the champion, of course. But we have, of course, the 3.5 championship from Beautiful Barber at 22 GMT tonight. The Canadian e-racing challenge at a lovely 1:15 GMT, also coming up very, very soon. And tomorrow morning, the championship that never stops, Aussie Mixed and Fixed. I swear these guys are never taking an off week. That will be 10:45 GMT from the beautiful racetrack in Montreal. It's been a fantastic season. Thanks to everyone who joined us. And as per usual, from everyone here at Apex Racing TV, Scott Newton, Wei Chan, and myself, Marco Barbanera, I wish you good night and happy racing.